Hi, my name's Trystan Petrash, and before we get into it, I just want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to my newest monthly donor, Carlos Barch. Now, if that name sounds a little familiar to you, it's because all the way back in episode 82, I told the story of how my really old green Pyrex bowl got broken. Well, shortly after that video, Carlos actually tracked one down for me and gifted it to me for the holidays. Because he is, and I quote, f***ing awesome. Now, a few years ago, I was looking for some new ideas for pork belly when I came across this Vietnamese braised pork, consisting of juicy pork, coconut juice, caramel, and fish sauce. So naturally, I was curious, and a little skeptical. On paper, this sounds like a bizarre combination, I get it. But in reality, it's almost like sweet and sour pork, minus the sour. It's also a dish perfect for slowly braising on a cold winter day. While it is most commonly done with pork belly, I wasn't able to get any at the moment, and so ended up going with this half of a pork shoulder I hacked off of the bone. As long as it has a bit of fat, any cut of pork will do. We're gonna start by breaking it down into more manageable pieces, roughly 2 centimeters thick. Leave the fat, it provides flavor and moisture, but trim off any excess. Because I'm using shoulder, there are going to be pieces of connective tissue like this. They will break down as it braises, but they're easy enough to remove and will improve the overall texture of the pork. Then simply cut the pork into cubes. Size doesn't really matter too much, just be consistent. But keep in mind, the smaller they are, the drier they'll become, and the larger, the longer they'll take to braise. Transfer the cut pork to a large bowl and season generously, and I mean generously, with kosher salt and freshly cracked black pepper. Then thoroughly mix together, making sure every piece is well seasoned, and set aside in the fridge. Quick tip: place a rag or kitchen towel down on your work surface before laying down your cutting board. It'll prevent it from slipping and, mutilating yourself while you cut. Unless you're into that sort of thing. No judgments here. For the veg, we'll need to peel and dice some onion. If you're not confident with a knife or unsure how to even dice an onion, consider signing up for a monthly membership to my channel. There you'll get access to exclusive content like my new how-to series, starting with basic knife skills. In addition to the onion, we'll also need some garlic. I'm just thinly slicing it since it'll break down as it cooks anyway, but you can absolutely mince it or grate it using a microplane. Lastly will be some fresh ginger, which I'm rough chopping into large pieces that we can just remove once the pork is done, because ginger will not break down like the onion and garlic will. In French cuisine, carrot, onion, and celery are referred to as mirepoix and are used to bring flavor and aromatics to a dish, while onion, garlic, and ginger would be considered the Asian equivalent. For the pot, a cast iron Dutch oven will work beautifully. In fact, it's one piece of kitchen equipment I think every cook should own. However, for this, I actually recommend using a wide, shallow cast iron pan, also referred to as a Braiser or rondeau. Because they have lots of surface area, you can brown all of the meat at once, without having to work in batches. They'll also allow everything to be evenly spread out while they braise, meaning more even cooking. Heat the pan over medium-high heat and add a few splashes of a neutral oil like canola. Once it's nice and hot, toss in the pork and spread it out so that every piece is making contact with the pan. The key to maximizing flavor when braising something is to deeply brown them first, so resist the urge to stir and move them around. Just be patient and let them do their thing, until you start to see them turn white about halfway up the sides. Then give them a stir and repeat until they're nicely browned on all sides. While the pork is browning, we can start our caramel. Use a pot with a heavy bottom base to prevent it from burning quickly, and add some good old white granulated sugar. Then heat it up over medium-low. If you've never made a caramel before, don't freak out. It's stupidly simple. Don't stir it, don't add anything, just let it melt, giving it the occasional shake. With the pork finished browning, add the onion, garlic, and ginger. Give it a good stir and cook the onions until just translucent and the garlic and ginger become fragrant. After a few minutes, the sugar will start to melt around the edges and turn a nice amber brown. Caramel color. Once it starts to lightly bubble, give it a few more shakes until all the sugar is melted. Then remove from the heat and add it to the pork. Stir until everything is coated and nice and sticky before adding the next ingredient, the coconut water. If you're unable to find any, that's okay. Water or even a very light chicken stock will work in its place. However, the final taste will be a bit different, but still good. Deglaze the bottom of the pan by scraping up all those tasty brown bits, or fond. Then bring to a boil over high heat. Cover with a lid and simmer on medium-low for roughly 30 to 40 minutes. Next, we'll get our rice going. I'm using jasmine rice since it's my favorite, and its texture and flavor work perfectly in just about anything. Now, the most important step to making rice is rinsing it off first. I normally just use my hand to agitate and strain it, but you can absolutely use a fine mesh strainer. I generally don't use one because that's simply one less thing I have to wash. And I'm lazy. For long grain rice like jasmine, a rice to water ratio of 1 to 1.5 will give you perfectly cooked rice every time. Season with kosher salt, then bring to a boil over high heat. Cover and simmer on low for 15 minutes. The pork has been braising for about 35 minutes now and is pretty darn tender. At this point, we can season it with a little bit of soy sauce, dark soy sauce. This is totally optional and is just to give the pork a deeper color. And the final ingredient, fish sauce. I'm using Red Boat, which is essentially the extra virgin olive oil of fish sauces, and has an absolutely wonderful flavor, but any fish sauce will ultimately work. Give everything a good mix and allow it to reduce uncovered. I'm deeply sad you can't smell how good my kitchen smells right now. Now, because this dish has no acidity or sourness to it and is just rich, fatty, and sweet, we need something to balance it all, which we'll do with a nice green and herby salad. I'm using my Japanese mandolin to thinly slice some cucumber. Going really thin will make the slices more flexible and crisp for the salad. To that, we're going to add some thinly sliced green onion, which will give it a bit of heat and earthiness. As far as herbs, I'm using cilantro to give it some citrus and pepper notes. But since cilantro doesn't agree with everyone, you can of course sub it for parsley, mint, even basil, whatever you'd like. You do you. Then set aside. We won't be dressing it or mixing it until the pork is done and we're ready to plate. All that's left to do now is wait for the braising liquid to reduce into a nice thick sauce. When you stir and you're able to see the bottom of the pan, it's done, and you can turn off the heat. Season the salad with a pinch of kosher salt, a splash of lime juice, and to give it a bit of heat, I'm using this yuzu hot sauce made from jalapenos. Alternatively, you can use some thinly sliced hot peppers, or omit the heat altogether. Then bust out your fanciest bowl. Spoon the steamed rice into the center, top with the braised pork, the green salad, and garnish with a few sprigs of cilantro. And that's it! Vietnamese braised pork. Despite the amount of sugar and coconut, it's surprisingly not overly sweet. The green salad also cuts through it nicely and gives it some freshness, cleansing your palate after each bite. The sauce is also so good I could literally just eat it with a bowl of rice and be perfectly content. If you like my channel and are interested in supporting it while getting some cool perks, like access to my private Discord server, bonus content like my how-to series, and shoutouts in episodes, you can check out my Ko-fi page. I'll leave a link for that as well as both the equipment I used in this episode and the equipment and services I used to make it in the description. And hey, if you've made it this far, consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. It's the easiest way to support the channel, help it grow, and lets me make new content each and every Wednesday. Thanks for watching, and stay awesome. As I record this, I'm looking out my front window, and it's just a fucking blizzard. It's just like, I can barely see across the street. That's like how much snow is coming down right now. Oh, I'm over winter. Gotta make sure I look cute. I mean, let's be honest. The only reason why you're watching this is because I'm hot. Okay, blah, 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 blah.